Alcatraz, the Rock, a place so secure that even Houdini might have thrown up his hands and said, "You know what? I'm good." Located on a lonely island in San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz was the federal government's way of saying, "You're not going anywhere." But in 1962, three men decided to challenge that notion, turning one of the most secure prisons in the world into their personal escape room. Meet Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, three guys with nothing but time on their hands and a burning desire to see the other side of the bay. Their weapons of choice? Spoons, raincoats, and an iron will. Over the course of months, these crafty inmates chipped away at the walls of their cells using makeshift tools, gradually creating escape routes so clever they could have been designed by an architect with a grudge against incarceration. But the real pièce de résistance was their raft. Now, if you're imagining something out of Castaway, think smaller and made of, yes, raincoats. The trio stitched together about 50 of these bad boys to create a makeshift vessel, complete with a set of oars they fashioned from bits of wood. It's the kind of resourcefulness that makes you wonder if they missed their true calling as contestants on a survival reality show. On the night of June 11th, 1962, with the guards none the wiser, they squeezed through the holes they had carved, climbed up to the roof, and shimmied down the outside of the prison. Then, in the dead of night, they set sail on their raincoat raft into the cold, unforgiving waters of San Francisco Bay. And then, poof! They vanished, leaving nothing behind but a few raincoat scraps and a lot of questions. The big question, of course, is whether they made it or not. Officially, they're listed as missing and presumed drowned, but rumors and sightings over the years suggest they might have made it to freedom. Either way, their escape remains one of the most audacious in history. A real-life Houdini act that turned Alcatraz from an impenetrable fortress into the stage for one of the greatest prison escapes of all time. When you think of a prison escape, you probably imagine digging tunnels or scaling walls. But in 1987, two French prisoners decided that those options were a little too pedestrian for their taste. Instead, they opted for an escape plan that would make any action movie director green with envy. A helicopter heist right out of a Hollywood blockbuster. Michel Vaujour, a man with a flair for the dramatic, had already made several escape attempts in his criminal career. But nothing quite like this. Stuck in a high-security prison in Paris, Vaujour was determined to break free in style. Meanwhile, on the outside, his wife Nadine was busy taking flying lessons. Yes, you heard that right. While most spouses might visit with a cake or some encouraging words, Nadine was learning how to pilot a helicopter. The plan was as daring as it was simple. Fly in, pick up Michelle, and fly out, easy peasy. On May 26, 1987, the plan was set into motion. Nadine commandeered a helicopter and directed it straight to the prison courtyard, where Michel and his cellmates were waiting. But this wasn't a stealth operation by any means. The inmates were waving and signaling like they were hailing a cab, while the guards were left standing with their mouths agape, probably wondering if they were suddenly extras in a James Bond flick. As the helicopter touched down, Michel and another inmate leapt aboard, while the guards scrambled to figure out what in the world was going on. Before anyone could react, the helicopter lifted off, with Vaujour triumphantly waving goodbye to the dumbfounded prison staff below. It was an escape so bold and absurd that it seemed like a prank, except it wasn't. The helicopter flew them to safety, but the story didn't end with a happily ever after. The escape made headlines, and the authorities launched an intense manhunt. Vaujour managed to stay on the run for a few months, but eventually his luck ran out, and he was recaptured. Nadine, the daring pilot, also faced the consequences of their high-flying escapade. While Vaujour's freedom was short-lived, the sheer audacity of his helicopter escape cemented his place in the annals of infamous prison breaks. It's a tale that proves when it comes to escaping prison, sometimes you just have to think outside the box, or in this case, above it. When it comes to prison escapes, it's usually a one-man show. But in the year 2000, 7 inmates in Texas decided that if you're going to break out, why not do it as a team? And not just any team, a well-organized, highly determined, and frankly terrifying team that would go down in history as the Texas 7. These 7 inmates were serving time at the John B. Connolly Unit, a maximum security prison. Instead of spending their days contemplating their life choices, they spent them plotting the ultimate breakout. The plan was ambitious. Overpower guards, steal their clothes, grab their weapons, and walk right out the front door. It sounds like something straight out of a heist movie, but these guys made it a reality. On December 13th, 2000, the plan kicked into action. The Texas 7 meticulously carried out their escape, overpowering unsuspecting guards, and even managing to trick others into thinking everything was business as usual. With the guards subdued and dressed in their uniforms, the group gathered weapons and supplies and made their way out of the prison as if they were just heading out for a coffee break. Once outside, they didn't scatter. They stuck together, stealing a getaway vehicle and disappearing into the Texas wilderness. The authorities were in shock. A maximum security prison, one of the most secure facilities in the state, had just been outsmarted by 7 men who were supposed to be under constant surveillance. Their escape triggered one of the largest manhunts in U.S. history, with law enforcement agencies across the country joining forces to track them down. The Texas 7 managed to stay on the run for over a month, robbing stores and banks to fund their life on the lam. But their luck ran out on January 21st, 2001, when they were finally cornered at a motel in Colorado. The showdown was intense. One of the 7 took his own life rather than surrender, while the others were captured and returned to Texas. The story of the Texas 7 is a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous escape artists aren't lone wolves, but well-coordinated packs. Their audacity and the scale of their breakout shocked the nation and remains one of the most infamous prison escapes in modern history. If you've ever watched The Shawshank Redemption, you probably marveled at the idea of digging a tunnel to freedom over decades, all while keeping it hidden from the watchful eyes of prison guards. Well, in 2015, 2 inmates in upstate New York decided to take a page out of Hollywood's playbook. Only this time, it was the real deal, and it had the entire nation on the edge of its seat. Meet Richard Matt and David Sweat, 2 convicted murderers who were doing hard time at the Clinton Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison that wasn't exactly known for letting its guests check out early. But these 2 weren't content with a lifetime behind bars. So, armed with tools smuggled in by a sympathetic prison worker, they embarked on a plan so audacious it would have made Andy Dufresne proud. Over the course of months, Matt and Sweat patiently worked their way through the prison's walls, tunnels, and pipes. Their escape route wasn't just a straight shot out, it was a winding, twisting maze that involved cutting through steel walls, navigating the prison's underground labyrinth, and ultimately emerging outside the facility's heavily fortified perimeter. All the while, they were careful to conceal their work, using everything from mattresses to cardboard to keep their progress hidden. The moment of truth came on the night of June 5, 2015. After squeezing through a tiny hole they had cut in their cell walls, they crawled through the prison's inner workings until they reached a manhole cover outside the prison's walls. Lifting the cover, they emerged into the cool night air, tasting freedom for the first time in years. But their escape was only the beginning. The ensuing manhunt became one of the largest in New York State history, with thousands of law enforcement officers combing the countryside. The media went into overdrive, dubbing the pair real-life Shawshank escapees and fueling public fascination with their daring breakout. For weeks, Matt and Sweat managed to elude capture, moving stealthily through the dense forests of upstate New York. But their freedom was short-lived. On June 26th, Richard Matt was shot and killed by law enforcement after a tense standoff. 2 days later, David Sweat was captured, bringing an end to one of the most dramatic prison breaks in modern times. The real-life Shawshank escape might not have had the tidy, feel-good ending of the movie, but it certainly had all the suspense, intrigue, and grit. And while Matt and Sweat's story ended in tragedy and capture, their escape remains a testament to the lengths some will go to reclaim their freedom, even if it means turning fiction into reality.